ago, and this is what I suspected was going to happen, is it wouldn't be too long before the private entity was back asking, in this case now, for the county taxpayers to fund what was once a city-funded property. I just inherited, thanks to my chairman of the redistricting committee, a couple thousand of people who live outside the city of Topeka. I'm sure they'll be interested in me informing them of this being on the ballot, if again it does. I appreciate it. I just wanted a little more information because this is coming up so suddenly. Thank you.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the hour is late. We spent hours last night and today talking a long time, and I promise you I will not go more than an hour or two to finish out All Fool's Day. But I do want to just take a quick pause and thank the chairman and think about the process. The four-county fire that affected some of my district and some of Representative Waymaster's, the bill was pre-filed. It was bipartisan. Both the House, the Senate, and the governor all agreed. This was in December. Non-controversial, they said. Here it is, almost literally the last day and the last hour. Takes a lot of form and fashion sometimes to get things accomplished, but as the one that carried the last two in our wildfires in years ago, it was finally done right, so that when this does happen again, we don't have to come to the body and to say this is something good for all of us in the state of Kansas. Bills like this in the last 2 or 3 days, we're given a lot of different options. It is so easy to vote no. And I do that occasionally when I don't find maybe the right things that I like as much as I do maybe some that I would, and vote for it. 29 different bills come into this one. But I ask if you're on the fence, literally, to support this bill, if not for those that bring you the food like you joined for dinner tonight. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Smith, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and body. I do appreciate your indulgence. I think this is the most time I've ever spent down here at the well speaking at one time, and I do not intend to make that a habit. I do want to say, this is a very big bill. We had a lot of provisions that passed out of the House Tax Committee. Senate did the same thing. And when we came together, we had very few shells, and we were trying to be as efficient and effective as possible. And it'd be remiss if I didn't recognize my ranking member and my vice chair for all the hard work that they did in conference committee. It felt like we had about 3 days solid of nothing but conference. And as I said earlier, we trimmed this down from about $500 or $600 million into a lot of our House positions, and to where it's just, it's under $100 million. We put a lot of work in. We were trying to be very fiscally responsible. And I understand, I'm not going to pretend that this isn't a huge bill, and I'm sure if you pick through it, you can find something you don't like and a reason to vote no. But I would just ask that you look at the overall picture and vote the way you feel on this bill. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2239. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Jacobs votes aye. Any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 103 having voted in favor and 10 against the passage of House Bill 2239, same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Representative Arnberger Blue for a motion to concur in conference on House Bill 2644.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt the, or I move to adopt the, or to concur in conference with the, is that right? That's not right. There it is. I wasn't even, I'm sorry. It's been a long night. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill 2644, which was in conference. This bill was the Sand Hill Plum, and the Senate did a minor change to it, which was to move to the register, and we decided that was okay. I'll stand for questions.
Body, as a reminder, if the motion fails, the bill will remain in conference. Is there discussion? Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I hope there may be a few of the children on this Sand Plum bill who talked to us during committee are watching tonight to watch this happen and are smiling will wake up in the morning with sand plums dancing in their head. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Arnberger Blue, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2644. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Representative Samsel on an explanation.
I've got to vote for my district, and as some of you may recall, my elementary students fought hard for the watermelon. So as much as I would like to support the sand plum, I've got to speak up for the watermelon today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further explanations of vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Meyer votes aye. Representative Hubert votes aye. Seeing no further changes, Representative Landwehr votes no. Anyone else? Not sure where you're at on the state fruit? Seeing none, 108 having voted in favor and 5 against the passage of House Bill 2644, same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Representative Rogers for a motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 261.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, I apologize that you have to hear these dulcet tones so quickly again. I move to adopt the Conference Committee report for House Substitute for Senate Bill 261. This is the one you've all been waiting for. Something called beat analogs. Some have called it fake meat, some have called it cell-cultured, some have called it delicious. I call it, I don't know what you're talking about. This has been a process where this body passed the bill 96 to 26. The Senate was waiting for some compromise language from industry partners and those that had some concerns. Those this afternoon have been met. The Chamber of Commerce is now supporting this bill, as is the Kansas Livestock Association, two of the industry ones that we're negotiating. I want to thank the Agriculture Committee for the patience in dealing with this bill, but now we are here. What has happened is we have struck language dealing with things like the close proximity to identifiable meat terms, meaning immediate before, after identifiable meat term, the same line the label containing identifiable meat terms in the line of the label immediately preceding and subsequent to the line containing identifiable meat, or within the same phrase or sentence that uses the identifiable meat term. That's been stricken. Also, very important, we have stricken the language where the meat analog label should be. If it does not have a disclaimer in a prominent and conspicuous font size, they would be out of compliance. Mr. Speaker, I'm open for questions.
Is there discussion? Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish I could think of something to ask you, but after that wonderful explanation that doesn't leave a lot, basically, the label is going to be very clear that this product does not contain meat, and all of the former plans to make it restrictive and font sizes is all gone, and it'll be up to the marketers then to do their job. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the bill.
Representative Lee.
Good evening, body. There's a letter circulating around. Some of you might have, no, I'm kidding. That was a joke. No letters about beef tonight. So I love labeling. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss, actually. So here's a story for you. When I moved back to Kansas, I started paying attention to the finances and markets of our family business, ranching. I was shocked. I live as a fifth-generation producer on a paid-for ranch, and we were losing money. I started asking questions and started doing some research, and here's what I discovered. Labeling was largely to blame. Country of origin labeling was repealed in 2015 federally, and here's what that means to our cattle producers in Kansas and why rural America is going broke. The scenario is this. On average, in 2015, producers were making about $2,000 a calf, and we sell cattle, the majority of us, once a year. Let's use 100 mama cows in our example. When the label of origin was repealed, we lost half our profit. So now take that $1,000 loss times 100 cows, that's $100,000 a year loss. And now take that times 7 years, because it was repealed in 2015, so 2015 to 2020. That's a loss of $700,000 on just 100 mama cows, which is a very average herd size. So now, do you want to know why the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker are going broke in downtown rural America? The cattle farmers in Kansas are going broke, and that's who funds Main Street. We need to stand for Kansas cattlemen and vote yes on SB 261. And then we need to encourage our Kansas U.S. senators and congressmen to sponsor and support the pending legislation that ironically was just introduced this last Monday in D.C. The reason it was repealed is because 4 major packers, one of which is opposed to our SB 261, take note of that, controls 85% of the slaughter in the U.S. We import beef from 20 countries according to USDA data. The packers, God bless them, we need the packers, but they need Kansas producers too. Packers want to source subpar foreign beef and pass it off as USDA, pass it off with the USDA label, not to be confused with a born, raised, and slaughtered USA label. We need to protect the trademark of Kansas ranching families. Vote yes on SB 261 to label fake meat versus real beef, and encourage our Kansas senators and congressmen to support the 2 country of origin labeling bills in DC. Body, let's save Kansas cattlemen and rural Kansas towns. Thank you, President Pro Tem.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Rogers, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kansas is one of the top cattle producing states in the nation. As we wrap up this session tomorrow, hopefully with your family, you enjoy some sort of patty, but hopefully you enjoy some great Kansas beef. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I close.
Body, this constitutes final action on Senate Bill 261. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Featherston votes aye. Any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 113 having voted in favor and 0 against the passage of Senate Bill 261, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, you know, this is the last day, and the last day is always long, and it always gets longer because we're trying to get done. And we're already starting to push up against the midnight hour, so we need to make this motion. As much as I hate it, and as much as you guys are going to boo me for it, I still have to do it. In accordance with House Rule 2311, I move that House Rule 101 be suspended to allow the House to meet between midnight and 8 a.m.
For discussion on the motion, Representative Heiberger.
Good evening, colleagues. I hope you're having as much fun as I am tonight. You may have heard the representative from Wyandotte wonder a few bills ago whether the kids who brought us the Sand Hill Plum resolution are watching us tonight. And no, they're not, because it's past their bedtime. We should do our work when the people who sent us here are watching us. It's not a good idea to make laws when the people who make the laws are tired and grumpy and just want to go home. Making the people who work for us work this late at night, especially 2 days in a row, is disrespectful to them. If there are things that we don't get done tonight, we can do them in veto session. Please vote no on suspending the midnight rule.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Hawkins, you may close.
I close.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Body, we're going to stand at ease for about 10 minutes. House come back to order. Are there announcements? Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats, we have agenda surprise immediately upon recess in 152 South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, recognize Majority Leader Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans, we will calendar in the old Supreme Court room immediately upon recess. Mr. Speaker, I move the House recess until 10:35.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The House is in recess. The House will be in order. Messages from the Senate, the clerk will read.
The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report on House Bill 2138 and 2252.
Speaker recognizes Representative Barker for a motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 84.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate substitute for House Bill, oops, the wrong one. This is Senate Bill 84, House substitute for Senate Bill 84. Just an agree to disagree. No, adopt the conference bill. Okay. Anyways, this is a bill we heard a couple of days ago. It passed out of the House 88 to 36. We'd met with the Senate, and I'll go through it briefly with you. Went through it the other day. There were a few changes with the Senate, but mostly it's about 90% of what the House bill was. And some people would worry about, so we'll talk about the first part. It authorizes casino managers contracting with the lottery may conduct sports wagering and may do so through an interactive sports wagering platform. That was the Senate's position. The House position had the exact same position, so we agreed on that. Second point was use of interactive sports wagering platforms. Each sports wagering manager may use up to 3 platforms. All platforms must be approved by the executive director of the lottery, and all background checks must be completed before a platform is approved. And all wagers placed through a platform must be from a person physically located in the state of Kansas. Basically the same. The Senate took the House position, but it also, our position had a patron must allow a patron to elect, or the casino must allow a patron to elect to not have any personal identifiable information collected for any purpose other than for the placement of wagers, payments of prizes, and reporting of suspicious or illegal activity. There was an issue raised in our caucus, well, we don't want to give our data away, well, they can't use it other than for that specific purpose. The House also established a deadline for the lottery and the KRGC to adopt process for background checks and approval. They do that in the lottery, so they would do it in the sports book. The next part was the sports wagering supplier license. The Senate was silent, did not have it in their bill. They adopted the House position. Any person wishing to provide goods or services necessary for determining odds or data, that's where they contract with one of those organizations. The fee for the license will be set by the lottery. The Senate took the House position. Key definitions: interacting sports wagering platforms, integrated systems of hardware and software that allow sports wagering over the internet through the website. We have all those definitions. We took the Senate's position on definitions of interactive sports wagering platform. We have both positions on the definition of lottery facility games, including professional sports teams and sports governing bodies. We took the House position on definitions of sporting events, and then we went to management contract provisions. This is where we differed. The Senate had 5.5% in their bill, at an 8% on the internet. The House position was 14 and 20. We looked at what other states were doing, and we know Colorado's 10%. Looks like Missouri may be 10%. So we agreed just a flat rate of 10% for the tax rate. So that was our compromise as far as the percentages. Marketing agreements, the Senate took the House position and include the Kansas Speedway, because you had Kansas City Sporting, that had the interactive agreement. We expanded that to the Kansas Speedway because you have to have a $50 million investment to be able to be eligible for it. And so we did do that. Also, it allows each of the casinos, excuse me, to, they're limited to 50 agreements these are the contracts that they could do with different entities, Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever. But of those 50, 20% has to be for service organizations, veterans organizations, or civic organizations such as the Elks or whatever. And those agreements are not tied to the gaming areas. We wanted some competition so that if Hollywood wanted to contract with someone in Abilene, Kansas, they could do that. If we have 4 casinos in competition, hopefully the retailers will get a better deal. Each sports wagering manager, prohibition on sports wagering. Again, they took the House position. Each sports wagering manager and interactive sports wagering platform will use commercially reasonable methods to prohibit wagering that is prohibited by law. Sports wagering manager will also report any information related to illegal, suspicious, or abnormal wagering into the lottery. Excuse me. So we had the same language. We did add the House position, have had additional. Each sports wagering manager will use reasonable methods to prohibit wagering that is prohibited by law and will maintain the security of all confidential data. Sports wagering patron accounts, again, we did not have that, so we did take the Senate's position. Basically, a patron may find a sports wagering account held by a sports wagering manager with cash and on. Age restrictions, we both had the age 21, so we agreed on that. Self-restrictions, a person may, again, they took the House position because their position was also in ours, but we had more, that if somebody can self-restrict betting, does not, and I think this was my colleague from Shawnee County's amendment, if someone that has already self-restricted themselves would make a bet and win, then that he would not get the proceeds. They would go to the Problem Gaming and Addiction Grant Fund. Casino managers are prohibited from providing a line of credit to any bettor. Casino managers must provide information and tools to assist bettors to make better, responsible gaming decisions. The next one was event restrictions. The Senate and the House had the same, so we agreed to that. We went down to maintenance of records. We had some differences. They had 30 days. We had 30 days of video, 3 years, I'm sorry. What we've agreed to is they can just keep the video for 30 days, but they still retain the data for 2 years because that's the statute of limitations should there be an investigation. Then we go to the cause of action for improper influence. Again, we had the same language in our bills. The state has the statutory cause of action against any person who knowingly engages or facilitates or conceals conduct intended to improperly influence the outcome of a sports event for financial gain. We agreed to that. Sports wagering receipt fund. We had the same language as the Senate and the Senate's position on allowing negative sports wagering revenue to be carried over if 1 week there's a big loss because there's an upset, then they can carry that over till the next week to the positive. Transfer of money will be the same as provided under current law with respects to the lottery gaming facility. They'll have the same method of transferring funds as the lottery does. It also creates the professional sports team to Kansas Fund and directs that 80% of the state's sports wagering revenue to the fund to be pledged by the State Finance Council to finance bonds for professional sports teams that want to come into Kansas. we can attract another team, that would be good. Background checks, they're the same. We took the Senate's position because they had a couple of more good ideas. One of them included sports wagering manager contractors if contracts exceed $250,000 as background checks. Rules and regs, again, they took the House position with respects to the advertisement rules that we had in our bill about ensuring ads do not target minors, problem gamers, other vulnerable people, or people who are ineligible to gamble. Disclosing the identity of sports wagering managers, can't do that. Providing the toll-free helpline for compulsive and problem gaming, and prohibiting false, misleading, or deceptive ads. The Senate's position with respects to the KRGC, they would adopt the rules and regs. We accepted their position there. As far as the Indian tribal gaming, we had the same language as the first part, with the governor required to negotiate in good faith with any Indian tribe that requests gaming compacts, and we of course we had our part, which the Senate conceded to. Upon request to negotiate a gaming contract, the tribe can enter into an agreement with the lottery. They would have the same as the casinos would have, the same basis. Excuse me again. Maybe I'm coming down with something. White collar crime. We had the same language, the $750,000 that would go into the fund to be administered by the governor to give out grants to the AG and the KRGC, Kansas Racing Gaming Commission, and they would have original jurisdiction in any of those cases that they investigate. The new crime of placing wagers or causing a wager to be placed on a sporting event on the basis of information that's not public, that's the insider trading part, would be a severe level non-person felony. Criminal sports wagering, again, they took the House position where we made the crime a severity level 8, and we added in with the access to non-public confidential information held by a casino manager. Criminal definitions of bet, we had the same language, so that language did not change from the original bill. Increase of criminal penalties, again, they took the House position as it pertains to a crime of sports bribery is committed with intent to influence a betting outcome on a sports contest for financial gain. We made it a severe level 5 non-person felony, and we took their position as to the increased penalties of crime, to increase the penalty for the crime of tampering with a sports contest, which would be a severe level 9. Enforcement and prohibition of gray machines, they had no language. We had language that had been found unconstitutional by the state Supreme Court, so we took that language out, and we've agreed with the parties that we would introduce a bill next year and come up with language on gray machines. The Senate had a small portion of iLottery in their bill. We did not have that. The Senate took the House position, so there is no iLottery. As to the problem gaming and addiction grant, they took the House position with respect to the amount of transfer to the problem gaming and addiction grant fund. We took the Senate's position with respect to the amendments regarding the purpose of the fund, and their purpose is a helpline with text and chat capability, treatment, research, education, and prevention of gaming, treatment of alcoholism, drug abuse, and other addictions or co-occurring behavioral health disorders. We thought that was good, so we used that. We agreed to the annual transfer from $80,000 to $100,000. Historic horse race, let me touch on this. The 2% that was put on in the House on the problem gaming, we kept. After the first $750,000, the first $750,000 goes to the white collar crime. After that, it's the 2%. The historic horse racing, the Senate did not have it in their bill. We did have it. They took the House position. I explained that a couple of days ago, what that entails. And we set the tax rate is set by the Constitution is 3%. We have no control over that. Parimutuel racing restrictions, they took the House position, and the House position was limit parimutuel racetrack facility license to only one facility in Sedgwick County, and it prohibits the licensing for or displaying simulcast greyhound races. So that did not change. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will stand for questions.
Is there discussion? Representative Lewis Ruiz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I must compliment the chair on the way he presented this bill tonight. This was really truly a work of compromise from both the House and Senate. And the way the chairman handled the Senate with their president or their chairman, we worked three good meetings on this to come to this compromise. I feel it's a good compromise. I know there were some things that people didn't want to have in here and some things people did want to have in here that is not there. And so I feel this is a good bill. I think it's something that we've been wanting for a long time. We've been kind of falling behind on issues from other states. And part of this, a fund that was an amendment brought in today about recruiting outside professional teams to come into Kansas. And the timeliness of this is that I heard yesterday on the news that somebody is courting the Kansas City Chiefs to come across the state line to come into Kansas. So I don't know if the chairman had something to do with that or the speaker or who did that. But Mr. Chairman, if you would, please, could you stand for a question?
Yes, sir.
Can you define historical horse race? It's kind of stuck in my historical horse race machines to be based on historically accurate horse race, not an algorithm. Can you help me understand that?
I've never seen one. I know they have them in several states. What it does, it goes like the last 15 seconds of a race that was run years ago. It doesn't identify the racetrack. It doesn't identify the horses, just the numbers. And you get to pick one. And if you place your bet, but it's small video clips, and they have thousands of them, probably tens of thousands of them, because I know they have them in Virginia. I personally have never seen one, but that's the way it's explained to me.
Mr. Chairman, don't run off. The gray machines, can you elaborate a little bit on that? I know you said over here Terry's they have one.
I was told that. And I think in many bars they have them. And the Kansas Racing Commission has the obligation to go out and pick them up, and they send them to a laboratory to see if they're a game of skill, they're legal. If they are a game of chance, they are not. But because our definition in Kansas law was so vague that the Kansas Supreme Court a few years ago found that it was unconstitutional. So we didn't want to put unconstitutional language in the House bill. The Senate was silent on that language. They had not addressed gray machines. So we've agreed with the Senate that next year we would introduce a bill with a better definition. We don't know what that definition is now because we have to go out and do some research, see what other states are doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I thank the chairman for good work on this compromise and along with the vice chair. And so I urge your support on this bill, and thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
And my distinguished colleague, Vice Chair, you got to see him in conference, folks. He's a mad dog. He goes after him. And I really appreciate his interaction with me today. When I told him, I said, well, you should be upset at this. He gets upset at us. So it was helpful. When you can take the Senate for about 85% of what they want, you know, it's not Democrat or Republican. It's House against the Senate. And I like that part.
Representative Wagoner.
I have a few questions for the carrier of the bill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, how much money is annually gambled currently through the lottery or the casinos or the extended lottery in Kansas?
Wouldn't have any idea. It brings in about $150 million at 22% from the machines and stuff. So.
Okay, I'll present that data. And of sports wagering, I mean, since you've read up so much on it, approximately what % of sports wagering currently is done online versus at a location?
Again, I know quite a bit's online. It's mostly younger people. It's not older folks like us.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
This is a big deal. This expansion of wagering in Kansas is a very big deal. It doesn't cut across your normal liberal conservative lines or Republican Democrats. It really reaches across everybody's sense as to what's a good deal for Kansas and what's a good deal for the taxpayers. The initial question I asked the carrier was how much money currently comes in legal wagering in Kansas. I have the data from the Kansas Lottery for fiscal year 2022. We had lottery expenditures or purchases of $375 million. Extended gaming, the total casino revenue was $399 million. So you have approximately $750 to $800 million currently being wagered in Kansas. Sports betting in Kansas is estimated to be a $750 million to $1.25 billion annual amount of wagering. You literally, with this bill, would be doubling the amount of betting in Kansas in one swoop. So you really need to think about this seriously before you proceed forward. Now, the other thing that I know in being a business person is you look at what is the return on investment. We all know the problems with problem gambling and just, the whole notion as to encouraging people to just wager versus earning. But currently, the lottery itself transfers to the state general fund about $76 million a year. Extended gaming has another $87.7 million that goes to the ELARF, and another $8 million, I'm reading this from their report, another $8 million to another fund that we have. So approximately you have about $170 million that we get from the casinos and from the lottery. Look at the fiscal note for doubling the amount of gaming in Kansas. The original House fiscal note, which was based on 20%, us getting a 20% take of the online and a 14% of the in-person, was barely $10 million. That was all we would get. Plus, we would have about $1.5 million to $2 million. And those of you who are on Fed and State with me, who I believe read the fiscal note, would know this to be true. On a good sense, you would maybe clear $8 million to the people of Kansas. And what has happened in the negotiations with the Senate is that we've dropped the percentage down from 20% down to 10%. Great for the casinos, bad for the taxpayers. So you literally, and again, I've done this, go to the original Senate fiscal note for Senate Bill 84, and you will see that they were estimating that it might take in about $4 or $5 million to the state general fund annually. I mean, that's it. In the testimony that we were given, one of the neutral testimonies really caught my eye. It was a neutral testimony from the National Council on Problem Gaming. Sports gambling, well, all gambling, there's a certain amount of percent of the population that this is a real trouble for. And they estimated that there's at least 60 to 70,000 Kansans, adults, that currently are struggling with gambling problems. But here's the thing, here's the context. The whole notion of this bill came about from a 2018 U.S. Supreme Court decision which stated that states could no longer ban online gambling or online sports wagering. So the whole market has changed since 2018. Prior to that, it was illegal in basically every state. Now you have basically 30 states that have taken steps to legalize it. They do an annual survey called the National Survey on Gambling Attitudes and Gambling Experiences that this group quoted from. And they said it revealed troubling trends between 2018 and 2021. The number of gamblers who answered many times when asked if they relied on others to pay their debts in the last year has tripled from 2% to 6%. Those asking many times when asked if they lied to hide their gambling doubled from 3 to 6%. You have a historic trajectory in problem gambling in the last 3 to 4 years since the Supreme Court decision, which should, again, make you, you need to think about this really deeply. Problem gambling is a real issue, and it's gotten worse. And the state of Kansas is looking to profit from this in just a really pathetic, or in a very nebulous manner, in a manner that's not to the benefit of the people of Kansas. Now, one of the great things about not always being the first person out the gate is that you have the benefit of learning from other people's experiences. And in the course of being on Fed and State, frankly, a lot of this really got to me in the last couple of days and doing some research. You can actually pull up every state that's already legalized sports wagering. You can find out the exact number of wagers and how much tax revenue they have generated. And it's a very telling story that you have of the 30, roughly 25 to 30 states, you have about 10 states that actually, I don't know, I put in the top tier, that they're actually generating a lot of money for the taxpayers per $1 million wagered. You know, your top 10 states, of those, 5 of them actually run it through a lottery, or through the lottery, their lottery people, you know, actually have set up the program and, you know, farmed it out to a private vendor. Of the other 5 states that do it through casinos and such, New York State has a 51% take, or 51% tax they get. Pennsylvania gets 36%. Arkansas gets 20%. Maryland gets 15%, Tennessee gets 20%, and yet in the year 2022 in Kansas, we're going to take 10%. Your bottom 5 states, or bottom 6 states by this math of Iowa, Nevada, Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, and Michigan that did the worst with their sports wagering, have a 6.75%, 6.75, 10%, 10%, 10%, 8.4%. My question to you is, why are we mimicking the people who are doing the worst for their citizens rather than the states that are doing the best? The magnitude is important. The states in the bottom tier, they generate from $2,000 to $4,300 per $1 million wagered. The states in the top tier, at the bottom of the top tier, they're generating $14,386 in Tennessee, $16,700 in Maryland. You get up to some of the states like New Hampshire with a lottery, it's $30,000 per million. Rhode Island, $45,000. All of this is public available data if you take the time to look for it online. Again, I pulled this up. You know, they have on sportshandle.com had an article on legal U.S. sports betting revenue handle and tax totals since the PASPA repeal. The article came out March 25th, 2022. It's a very recent article. The Tax Foundation also has a thing on the tax treatment by states for sports betting, which is where I've gotten my data for the amount of, you know, the tax rate such as it would be. But here's my question. It's really tragic that in the course of the negotiations that the numbers went down. They went the wrong direction. They went down the direction for the benefit of the casinos and the benefit of the people who would profit from this. They didn't stay high where the initial House position had some maybe merit to it, but it went to the very lowest. I mean, when you look at these numbers, it's literally a magnitude of 10. It's a question of, do you want to take $5 million a year for this for the people of Kansas, or you want to take 50? You want to take 3 million, you want to take 30. I mean, there's literally that much difference in current state experience on how to do sports wagering. Now, the question of the historic horse racing is kind of a separate question. I mean, frankly, I thought it was kind of a very interesting, I never really heard of it before, but again, you could do something different through a lottery or for whatever method. But again, one other question I asked the chairman was, what % of sports wagering is online? In most states, 90% of the wagering is online. What is the point of having brick and mortar casinos be in charge of a business that's 90% online? I mean, it defies logic. Once you get this deal, there really is no turning back. I mean, don't kid yourself. You know, you sign off on this now, there's no going back later and say, oh, casinos, we really want 20%, or we really want something different. You know, we are here to make a good deal, or I'm here to make a good deal for the people of Kansas. And I think if the casinos really wanted the business, you have it over their head, we can easily go to a sports app company. I mean, again, you have 5 states already, they're small states, Montana, Delaware, Oregon, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Washington, D.C. Some of them do it better than others, but there is that revenue of experience currently. So again, I think we should make, our goal as a legislature should be to make a good deal for the voters. We're not here for the casinos. We should make a good deal for the voters, for the citizens of Kansas, for the taxpayers of Kansas. We're not here for the lobbyists. This bill should be rejected. We can do better than this. I urge you to vote no on this Senate bill, revised Senate Bill 84. Thank you.
Representative Heiberger.
Will the carrier stand for a couple of questions? And we better hurry because I turn into a pumpkin soon.
Yes, sir.
Reading through the summary, there's one thing that jumped out at me. Apparently now 80% of the sports wagering revenues are going to be pledged to a fund to finance bonds for a professional sports team facility in Kansas?
That is correct.
Was that concept in either the House bill or the Senate bill?
It was not. It was an amendment that was brought.
Where did it come from?
I was asked to carry it, yes.
And who asked you to carry it?
My leadership.
Okay. All right. It seems, well, do you know whether this idea had a hearing in either the Senate or the House committee?
No, we talked about the funds, but not this specific named fund.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, this really jumped out at me when I saw it. It's taking 80% of the revenue generated from this and putting it into a fund to attract us to build a professional sports team facility in Kansas. I've never heard of that idea before. I'm reassessing whether I support the bill anymore or not. Thanks.
Representative Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Pro Tem. Would the maker or the bringer of the...
Always for you, sir.
All right. I have a few questions.
Okay.
Is it true, is it my understanding that this is all you need to make a bet?
Well, you have to enroll, but yes.
Okay. But you don't have to physically have to go to a casino to make a sports wager bet, as long as you've got the app and you've done the proper protocol.
You've registered with a casino and they've given you the app that they've done the background check and that type of thing, yes.
Okay. How are they going to do the background check? Is it going to be
Much like if you get a credit card or whatever, that's about the same. You know, they have questions and such. Because they want to make sure you pay your bet.
Okay. Well, it's been a while since...
Credit check or whatever.
It's been a while since I applied for a credit card, but I don't remember having to show anybody a photo ID of myself to get a credit card. Is that going to be the case?
You know, each casino will have its own criteria. So I can't answer that.
Well, we're the ones that are allowing the casinos to do this, correct?
And if you'll notice, the regulations will be decided or really put together by the lottery and the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission.
Okay, so the lottery or the KR,
We'll do the
Racing Gaming, they will make sure that there is a photo ID somewhere so that you don't have an 18 and 19-year-old and his older brother that kind of looks like him. Hey, that's me. I want to bet $1,000 on the Colts next Sunday.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Stay here. All the principals involved in the sports betting, are they going to be Kansas residents?
Give me that one more time, please.
Are all the principals that are going to be involved in the sports betting, whether it's the app or at the casino, are they going to be Kansas residents?
I can't tell you that. It would be the casinos, and if the casinos are, all of their owners are in the state of Kansas, that would...
Well, the way I was understanding is that you can't go outside of the borders of Kansas and make a sports bet. Is that correct?
That is very correct, and I've actually seen that app. What happens is on your phone, and as closer you get to the border, it just pings more often, and suddenly when you hit the border, it just says you can't make any bets.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
A lot of technology in the last few years, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's gone way past me. So, are all the casino operators, they're going to vet these sports betting apps, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But they're overseen, because it's all overseen by the lottery.
Correct.
Or the KRGC.
Do they have any previous working relationships or I guess a better term, do they know about these apps and how they work and how many of these apps are actually in play, like say in other states?
I can't be specific about all the casinos, but like Penn National, who owns the casino in Kansas City, you know, they have casinos in other states.
Okay.
So
what I'm looking for is a track record that we, as a legislative body or the lottery, can go back and say, well, we want to check these out for ourselves before we make any rash decisions on who's going to have these sports apps within the state.
And the lottery, who has the contracts with the 4 state-owned casinos, they've done all those backgrounds. They've worked with them for years. They've had a contract. So they do all the backgrounds along with the KRGC. So they know their work record.
Okay. Do we know by any chance how many other states operate these type of sports apps?
I think it's like, I'm looking to my vice chair. It's in a 32, I think.
Okay, so there is a track record.
Yes, there is a track record.
Okay, thank you. Stay here just a second. I may have another one.
Go right ahead.
Will the sports wagering entities, these whoever these are that run these apps, they're going to be vetted through the casinos, but it'll be like a partnership with like the KBI or the lottery, correct?
Right there.
Okay, very good.
RGC.
Okay. Will these sports, sports promoters be allowed to call people from outside the state and say, hey, you should bet on this game. The Colts, they're looking hot. They're good.
If it's insider trading, is that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about, I'll just give you an example.
Okay.
In fact, well, I don't know if I still have it on here, but about a year or two ago, I was suddenly getting a lot of phone calls from sports promoters saying, hey, bet on this, bet on this. And I said, I don't think I can do that legally in the state of Kansas. He says, oh, it doesn't matter. He says, you got a credit card, you can pay for it. I said, what's your name? Click.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of worried about.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that, we have this is the reason we put the $750,000 every year into the white-collar crime, because presently there's so much money spent in the Caribbean and different locations, and it's illegal betting, as you well know, being a former law enforcement officer.
Right.
And that they're going to hire special investigators that have far better computer skills than we do, that will stop the offshore betting.
Right. Okay. I think that's all I need for now.
Okay.
I want to
step back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that answered some of my questions. Some a little iffy on, but I'll take that. I have a little bit of background in this sort of thing, going to places like that, and not gambling, but in my other life, I had a little bit of experience of that. So I don't really care one way or the other whether the state of Kansas hasn't. I just want to make sure if we're entering into this, thank you. If we're entering into this, that we're with both our eyes open, and we're going to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted before we sign on the dotted line on this, because I've seen a lot of things go on, and as it was already pointed out, you're talking about a lot of money in the state. Which brings me to my last little comment. We're here at just about midnight, and I'll be out of here in just a minute, and we're trying to rush this thing through. I've just got this tonight, same thing that you've probably got, and we're trying to rush this thing through, and I think there needs to be a lot more discussion. That's my opinion. You can, take that and get on the sports app and bet something. But we've been trying for years to get Medicaid expansion into the state, and we can't seem to do that. We're trying to eliminate the sales tax on food, have a clean bill, so that every Kansas family can recoup about $500 a year by the elimination of that sales tax, somewhere around there. But yet, we can't get those done, but here we are at literally the midnight hour, and we're trying to run this thing through. So all I'm saying to you as a body is, let's slow down just a little bit and make sure everything is as it should be. And with that, I'm done. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Hotel.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I voted against this last time, but I just sat over there in that chair and I didn't say what had been laid on my heart. And God's given me a redo, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say what was laid on my heart the other night. The representative from Hutchinson told us a few minutes ago that 65,000 people suffer from gambling addiction, Kansans. That's not just a number to me. one of my family members suffers from gambling addiction. And I want to tell you what this bill is going to do to one person's life, just so it's not abstract to you either. Right now, the only limiting factor on my family member's addiction is that they have to get up and go to a casino to gamble. They got to hold a job to pay the debts, and when they're not working to pay the debts, they're at the casino making the debts. And the whole family suffers that addiction because we all got to pick up some of that tab. What you're about to do here is make it convenient for gambling addicts to gamble 24 hours a day off their phone. While they're at work, working off the debt, they're running up the debt on their phone. That's what you're doing here. You know, we hear all this, we hear all the excuses that you hear when good people are being talked into doing something that's bad. People are already doing it. We might as well profit from it. Please do not do this to my family member and the 65,000 other Kansans that suffer from gambling addiction. Please, just think about them for a minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Corbett.
I have a question for the judge.
Yes, sir.
So basically, we can agree on one thing. If this doesn't pass, Kansas gets nothing. That's pretty much the way it is, isn't it?
That's correct.
You know, it's just like any other business. There's ups and downs on everything. I mean, give it a chance. We need to find some way to make some money. I don't gamble, but it's voluntary. Just give it a chance, and there's nothing we can't fix if it's wrong. Thanks.
Representative Helgerson.
You know, the more I listen, the more I get concerned. Representative just mentioned, you know, let's do something to help out the economy. Let's do something. If we don't do anything, nothing will happen. Well, wait a minute. How much did revenues go up this last month? We didn't do anything. $80 million, and this bill is going to give us, what, $10 million for a year? I want to mention, go back in history, and I'm sorry to do this. When we started gambling in this state in the 1990s, it got to a point where, and I thought this was outrageous. We were going to, yeah, sit down, you're going to be there a while. We were having $35 per person in this state is how much was being spent on gambling, legal gambling through the state, $35. And hey, look, I know I wasn't spending that money, and I knew a lot of other people weren't spending that money, so it got really concentrated. You know, my figures now show that that's up to $260 per person in this state. Now, I don't know how much you gamble in this state legally, but I'm betting that gets pretty concentrated in fewer and fewer people. So what we're hearing about the concentration of problem gamblers in this state is exactly right. Now, I wasn't going to come down here and talk about problem gambling because I assumed that was enough. But then I heard that we're in the process of trying to dedicate money for a pro team, and 80% is going of our revenue, the state, is going to be decided by the Finance Council. Wait a minute. Didn't I just talk about how we're now making the decisions to give the power over to a few people? I can't believe that we're going to make now a decision to expand gambling. And I know that some of you say, well, it's already going on in the state. We should just allow it. Wait a minute. There's no reason to move ahead with a system that's going to be broken from the day we start. And there's no reason why we turn it over to the Finance Council, who hadn't told us about it until it came up in the last few minutes of the last day of the session. I don't know what they have in mind, and I don't know what secret games are out there, and I would love to have somebody say and tell me exactly what's going on. Is there a sports team out there, or is there a concentration going on in pro sports that I don't know about in the Kansas City, or which I'm sure it's not the Wichita area? But if there is, let's come forward and say it. Games like this are not supposed to be played at the end. Does anybody want to answer? Okay, not hearing anyone else. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to not adopt the new conference committee and a new conference committee be appointed.
Body, this motion is fully debatable. It takes a simple majority, no roll calls required, and the mover will have the right to close on the motion. For discussion on the Helgerson motion, Representative Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you know, we talked about hurried last minute. This has been in process since 2018, and I think I mentioned that in the caucus. We have worked with the Senate. You know, the Senate had the 5%, we had the 14%. As to the motion, though, I would oppose the motion. This is not a new concept. Over 30 states have illegal casino operations. Of that, besides, there's 15 states that do not even have casinos that have casinos. They have sports book, but not casinos. This is not going to go, as far as the motion goes, if we want to get this done, you're right, it's the last day. But I've been negotiating with the Senate since 8 o'clock this morning when most of you were here. We've got it worked out finally. We've got 3 casinos on board. So I would say this is the opportunity, this is the time now to get this done. With that, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion on the Helgerson motion, Representative Abercamp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You ever feel like you're in front of an avalanche, figuring out how to stop it? It's kind of an awkward feeling. Having dug into the numbers, and then all of a sudden it is an interesting thing on page 10 of the PDF, what was added in. This bill is a bill, from my perspective, that is written for the casinos, by the casinos, and of the casinos. Everything it is in it's a sweetheart deal for them. The Constitution clearly states the Kansas lottery is the only way gambling happens in Kansas, and that money generated, it's for the state general fund. We need to rip the layers off of this bill. There are tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars at stake for the people of Kansas. It's hard to oppose the avalanche, but let us remember who we represent. I'm going to support the motion.
Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Body, I'm going to start off by asking you to oppose this motion for a couple of different reasons. We've heard at the well tonight about the tax rates. They're too low. They come from conservatives who want the government for some reason to have even more money. It's a mystery to me. We talk about gambling addiction. That's happening as it is. Right now, you can go online to any website in the Cayman Islands or offshores and place a bet with your phone. What you do when you go off to these offshore sites, you're sending money overseas to sketchy websites with no regulation whatsoever. So these people who may be addicted, and gambling addiction is real. Don't get me wrong, guys, it's real. But the folks who are already being trapped in that system, it's happening already, and they're getting ripped off by these sketchy sites with no regulation. We heard about, we're going too fast. We're trying to shove this through. As the carrier of the bill said, we've been working on this since 2018. It is time. It is midnight, the last hour we can do this. We don't get this done now, that's another Super Bowl gone. That's another Final Four gone because we wait again till next year and next year and next year. And then we also hear about a tax giveaway, or I'm sorry, not a tax giveaway, but a giveaway to the casinos. The casinos, this is their business. Of course we're going to have the casinos run it because this is what they do. This is what they excel at. They excel at gambling, and this is why they should run it and not the government, not the state of Kansas. When's the last time a government entity ran anything efficiently? It doesn't happen. The time is now. Oppose this motion. Let's pass this bill. Let's wrap this up, and let's move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had not planned to address this legislation, but I rise in strong support of the motion to send this matter back for further consideration. I want to tell you why. I served on the special committee that was back 2018, 19, I can't remember. We heard, as I recall, 2 days of testimony concerning this matter. Sadly, the suggestion was made at that time by the now deceased senator and our old friend who was the chair of the committee, that the committee, instead of writing its recommendations in the light of day, should instead go on an all-expense-paid junket to a casino down, as I recall, near New Orleans, and write the report down there, because it'd be more collegial. Well, we rejected that idea. A number of members did go on down there and took the junket, and that's for them to explain or decide. But at the time, I had extremely serious reservations about the entire idea of moving to application-based sports betting. I've reflected on that situation over the past couple of years, and I have concluded, as have many of you, that this is happening. It's going on. It's going on in a black market economy, an unregulated economy, an economy where not only was the money not going to Kansas, and not only was the gambling addiction fund not present, and not only were controls about who gambles, children, people with addictions, etc., but the fact of the matter was that this is going to happen, and quite honestly, we couldn't stop it. So I've changed my position. I do not oppose the concept today, as harmful as I think it may be, because I think the unregulated economy is even worse. But that is not what this motion is about. This motion is about something very different. I don't know what happened in the majority party's caucus, but I know that in my caucus there wasn't any mention whatsoever about 80% of the money going to build a new sports stadium, presumably in the Johnson or Wyandotte County area. There wasn't any discussion whatsoever about this new fourth branch of government called the LCC being in charge of making that decision. Sadly, I feel like somebody was pulling a fast one on me. And it stinks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any further discussion on the Helgerson motion? Seeing none, Representative Helgerson, you may close.
You know, a lobbyist outside who I've known for 40-some years said, well, you're in favor of all the gambling. Heck, I voted for the lottery. One of those original legislators that voted to do that because we were putting it up, I think it was to the vote of the people. Over time, I started looking at statistics and raising questions. And I have real questions about the concentration of spending that goes on by some individuals. But our responsibility is to make sure it is run efficiently and above boards. You know, nobody here is saying we're going to stop the gambling, we're going to eliminate that. But what I am saying here, that I want to make sure that we're maximizing the profits and that everything is done above board. When I see that we're going to start dedicating money to something that had not been told about for a new sports facility or something, and no one has said, what happens if we don't build a sports facility? What happens to that money? And when it's turned over to the Finance Council, not all of us, to sit here and make that decision and to hear the testimony, but to a handful of legislators. And when for the last 5 years, I've been trying to tell everybody that what's going on is the second floor is making decisions about renewing contracts without even having discussions with the legislators, and it's being taken out of our hands, then I say, wait a minute. I'm going to step up and say right now that it goes back and we have a new conference committee and we start looking at it a little bit closer as opposed to saying, man, I'm tired tonight and I want to go home. Well, I got my second wind. I make the motion.
Body, a reminder, a yes vote will send the bill back to conference committee with Speaker appointing representatives as conferees in the part of the House. If the motion fails, we're back on the original motion to adopt the conference committee report. You've heard the motion by Representative Helgerson to not adopt the conference committee report and appoint a new conference committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No. The noes appear to have it. Division has been called. Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. Seeing 15 hands, roll call is in order. Roll call was requested prior to having the clerk record the vote. Roll call was requested prior to having the clerk record the vote. Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, the roll call is in order. Representative Penn, do you wish to vote? Representative Penn votes nay. Does any other member wish to change their vote? Any member wish to explain their vote? Seeing none, vote of 56-56, the motion fails to receive a majority, and it fails. We're back on the original motion to adopt the conference committee report. To speak to the original motion to adopt the conference committee report, is there any other discussion? Representative Helgerson?
I make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
You've heard the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The noes do have it. We're back on the Barker motion to adopt the conference committee report. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Barker, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the adoption of the conference committee report.
Representative Barker has closed. This will constitute final action on Senate Bill 84. The clerk will open the roll, and you may record your vote. Clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Representative Hoheisel for an explanation of vote. Representative Howe for an explanation of vote.
Mr. Speaker, I vote nay on Senate Bill 84. Gambling encourages the sins of greed and covetousness and promotes mismanagement of possessions entrusted to us by God. Gambling undermines absolute reliance on God for his provision. Gambling is a potentially addictive behavior, threatens the welfare of our neighbor, and militates against the common good. This bill will have negative impacts on families, communities, and our overall society. Instead of creating wealth, this bill will allow the extraction of wealth from Kansas. With the previously stated reasons and with 61% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, how can we justify even more gambling? Representative Howe.
Representative Fairchild on an explanation of vote.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes on substitute for Senate Bill 84. I don't view this legislation as being ideal because ideally I believe that we should simply have a free market on the issue of gambling. Ideally, I would support abolishing state-owned casinos and simply allowing companies and individuals to open up private casinos. However, I still believe that allowing people to gamble on sports within a state-run system is better for the cause of liberty than prohibiting gambling altogether. Prohibiting people from engaging in activities that don't violate anyone else's rights is incompatible with the cause of liberty and limited government. Representative Fairchild.
Representative Helgerson on an explanation of vote.
Your votes, let me tell you, nothing dies in this place. We have a whole 3 weeks if it's really that important of an issue. And it's important to a lot of people. I can tell you that right now. But one thing I will guarantee, if you don't stop it right now, you will have the tyranny of a minority controlling what happens in this House from now on. We found out at the last minute that the Finance Council was going to control a new sports facility. Now we're giving it over to them again. If that's what you want to do, then this House should just pack up and go home and give the power to a few people rather than what it is now.
Further explanations of vote. Representative Blex wishes to change his vote to aye. Any further explanations of vote? Any further changes of vote? Representative Tim Johnson votes no. Representative Penn votes aye. Seeing no further changes, wait a minute. Seeing no further changes of vote, with 63 having voted in favor and 49 against passage of Senate Bill 84, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Representative Berquist for a motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on House Bill 2252. My apologies, body. Caucuses have not calendared on that item yet. Hold for just a moment. Are there announcements? Representative Woodard.
Democrats, if we recess, or when we do, we will have agenda in 152 South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further announcements? Seeing none, Representative Hawkins. Hold just a moment. Body will stand at ease. Representative Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House recess until 11:45 p.m.
You mean 12:45?
12:45 p.m.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The House is in recess. The House will be in order. Messages from the Senate, the clerk will read.
The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report on House Bill 2387. The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 58, Senate Bill 160, substitute for Senate Bill, substitute, it's House Bill 2056. It's a song. All right.
Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. I think there's something in here you all like. The clerk will read.
House Concurrent Resolution Number 5036 by Representatives Reichman, Hawkins, and Sawyer, a concurrent resolution extending the 2022 regular session of the legislature beyond 90 calendar days, providing for the adjournment of the Senate and House of Representatives for a period of time during such regular session. Be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Kansas, the Senate concurring therein, that the 2022 regular session of the legislature shall be extended beyond 90 calendar days. Be it further resolved that the legislature shall adjourn at the close of the business of the daily session convened on April 1, 2022, and shall reconvene on April 25, 2022. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the House of Representatives and the Secretary of the Senate and employees specified by the Director of Legislative Administrative Services for such purpose shall attend to their duties each day during periods of adjournment, Sundays excepted, for the purpose of receiving messages from the governor and conducting such other business as may be required. Be it further resolved that members of the legislature shall not receive the per diem compensation and subsistence allowances provided for in KSA 46137A and B and amendments thereto for any day within a period in which both houses of the legislature are adjourned more than 2 days. Be it resolved that the members of the legislature attending a legislative meeting of whatever nature, when authorized pursuant to law or by the Legislative Coordinating Council, the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the member of a conference committee attending a meeting of the conference committee authorized by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives during any period of adjournment for which members are not authorized compensation and allowances and shall receive compensation, subsistence allowances, mileage, and other expenses in amounts prescribed under KSA 753212 and amendments thereto.
On HCR 5036, the Speaker recognizes Representative Hawkins for a motion to adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move we adopt HCR 5036.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. I didn't hear any. Motion carries. Are there announcements? Representative Ballard for an announcement. Your light is on. No.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to try to just say that I think all of you know that KU is playing this weekend in New Orleans, and I am leaving. I have a flight at 9 o'clock, so I'm really so glad that you kind of ended a little bit early so I could go, but I hope you root for it. But I also have stickers for anybody who would like to have one to give to your family or friends or whatever you would like to do, but thank you so very much.
Representative Schreiber has a very brief announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. One last appeal for auction items for the shrimp peel. It's going to be April 25th. If you would rather donate money, that's perfectly acceptable. You can either get that to me or if you're up around here, you can get it to Sean Miller over at Capital Strategies, and we'll get that to Kansas Special Olympics. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, Majority Leader Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House adjourn until Monday, April 25th at 11 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no.